All right, welcome, Miss Erica Blocker. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you and everyone.
I'm excited to have you here. I've wanted to talk to you for a while. I think you were one of my very first podcast interviews when I started my podcast because we started together, but you kept going and you kept flourishing. So I wanted to hear more about your journey. So that's why I'm glad to have you here today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with podcasting.
Oh, that's a great question. So I got started in podcasting because a year before, well, I've been doing it for a little over 2 years now. But prior to that, I had an online radio show. And I liked the idea of having a platform to have guests and to share my message, but I didn't like the idea of having to be live every week and having to be told what to do by the station and all that stuff. So I decided that after my 1 year contract was up, I would explore podcasting because I'd heard about it, I'd been listening to them, and I was like, oh, I think I like the idea of being able to record when I want, to allow people to play them on demand, and I still had this flexibility of saying what I wanted to say and share the messages that I wanted to share. And so I just kind of was like, I'm going to venture into podcasting. So that's literally what I did. And I haven't looked back since.
I'm glad you started because you're encouraging so many people. I know a few weeks ago you shared that you did an interview with Amy Porterfield, but we'll get to that at the end because we want to pick your brain and find out how you got that amazing interview.
Absolutely.
So, Erica, tell us why you chose to start. Your podcast is called Moms with Dreams, correct?
Correct.
Tell us why you decided to start Moms with Dreams podcast.
Well, it was a natural extension of my brand. So I already had Moms with Dreams University, and I had already written the book back in 2014 called Motherhood Dreams and Success. You Can Have It All. So it was just kind of like, oh, and you know what, Nancy, was crazy? I was like going all around like, I need a title for my podcast. What am I going to call my podcast?
I remember.
Right. And I was just like, duh, Moms with Dreams. What are you dancing around it for? And I think I was afraid to claim it because I had heard so many things about, oh, moms are so hard to get into coaching and moms are so hard to convince to invest in themselves. And I was just like, but that's who I speak to. That's what I know, being a mom. So that's why I named it Moms with Dreams, because I really want to encourage women out there to go for what they want and to not feel guilty, even if you have children. I mean, especially if you have children, we should show them, right? Be their best example. Mm-hmm. But I'm just so passionate about like letting women know that you can be amazing and also be a great mom.
Right. I love that about your show. I've listened to so many episodes. And there was one in particular about, I believe it was about stress. I've listened to that a few times, and it's like that, it's something new that clicks with me every time. So I love the different varieties of shows that you share, the different varieties of women that you share in your show. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for listening.
You're welcome. So podcasting is a platform where there's so many people out there, but not a lot of these podcasters are getting the listening audience that they need. Do you think podcasting is overcrowded now for people to get started with it?
No, I don't. I think that there is space for anyone who has a message and who's passionate about sharing their message. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the beautiful thing about podcasting. It's very similar to blogging. People could say, oh, blogging is crowded. Everyone's a blogger now. Or, I mean, you could put that in any genre, right? You could say there's so many videographers now. People are doing video everywhere. Mm-hmm. I feel like podcasting is a platform that's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to expand. More and more people. I forgot the statistics. I probably should have had that prepared for you tonight, but the listenership is growing regularly every single year, more so than people thought. So I feel like as long as you have a message, something to share, something to teach, something that's going to inspire someone else, there's room for you in the podcasting forum.
Yeah, definitely. Why do you think podcasting has become so popular with everyone lately?
I think because a few reasons, Nike. That's a great question too. Like, I think because for me, podcasting is convenient because like if I'm driving to work and I don't have, I only have 30 minutes. The average show is about 30 minutes, right? Because they take into consideration that the average commute is about 30 minutes. So it's enough time for me to listen to an episode on my way to work or on my way home or while I'm working out or cooking dinner. It's super convenient and it's on demand, so you don't have to be in front of your TV or be on the radio at a certain time or listen at a certain, listen for a show at a certain time. And I think also because we live in such an information-driven society, people are craving information and we want to know stuff. And the fact that podcasts have so much information, so much to learn, and it's all free content, I think that's another reason why it's popular from for listeners to listen and also for podcasters to produce
that content. Yeah, I love it. I love it because I am able to go back and just like with videos, but it's a little different with videos because I'm a type of person that I love to listen. So if I'm sitting in a space where it's totally peaceful, I can stop, play, record. I mean, not record, but stop and play and take my notes wherever I need. So that's what I love about podcasts. It's convenient, just like you said.
Yep. And you can you can access it from anywhere, basically.
Right.
So it's you can reach people from all over the world. All people from all over the world can reach you. It's just it's great. It's
right.
Awesome.
Well, guys, I have a confession to make, and I know Erica will probably. I'm not sure. I'm an introvert. Erica, are you an introvert?
Yes.
Yes. So for me, podcasting is something that I love because I don't always have to get on camera. I'm getting more okay with getting on camera now, but before in the beginning, I just wanted to talk. I wanted people to hear my voice and to share my story. So what do you think? Do you think podcasting is for everyone, introverts and extroverts?
Absolutely. And honestly, Nike, I've read statistics where they say that introverts do better as podcasters, especially as interviewers, because we tend to listen more than we talk. And so we're good at, having those conversations, asking good questions because we're introspective thinkers. So we're deep thinkers for the most part. And also, if you're an extrovert and you love to talk and you love to meet people, then you'll excel in podcasting as well. So again, I feel like there is no certain category or personality type or characteristics that you have to have other than the fact that you are passionate about what you do, you love to share, and you want to help people. And I think that is really the basis of what you should be, who you should be as a podcaster.
Yeah, I think with me, podcasting kind of helped pull me out of being such an introvert. I was able to talk to people more and get on camera more just because of people hearing my voice and asking questions throughout the podcast. So yeah,
I agree.
Love it.
And for me, it's made me more more assertive too, because as an introvert, it's easy for me to just listen. I would prefer to just listen, right? I don't really want to talk. The funny thing is, I'm not a talker. So the fact that yes, the fact that I have a podcast.
That can't be real.
You're like, you haven't shut up since we started talking. How are you not a talker? No, seriously, no. I'm not a talker. If I could just sit and listen and take notes and just be in the background, I would be perfectly happy. But this has helped me come out of my shell, helped me be more assertive, ask better questions, and just become a better listener as well.
Right. I was listening to one of your episodes, and a lot of times when people get started with podcasting, their questions are kind of like systematic. You can tell they're like planned to the point, and that the podcaster is not really listening to the interviewee. But I was listening to your show, and I'm like, her words are just like flowing through, and they're kind of helping guide us through to the next topic in the story. So I love that about your podcast. Yeah.
Thank you, Nike.
Now, Erica, I know podcasting can be kind of scary to get started. What are some tips that you can give newbies for starting a podcast?
Great question. So the first thing I would say is have a purpose. So this episode, this training tonight is called Podcasting with Purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say before you even like look into equipment or any of the technical stuff, or even like trying to figure out a name of your show or any of that stuff, think about the reason why and what's the purpose behind your podcast, because that's what you need to, that's going to keep you going in those moments when you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing this anymore, or why am I even doing this? You can refer back to, well, this is my reason why, and I'm doing this because, and I know that I have something important to share, or this is going to help other women like me who've been through what I've been through, or whatever the case. Like, so I would say the first to do is to have a purpose, and then think about how do you want your podcast to, you know, who are you talking to? Mm-hmm. So now you know what your purpose and your why is. So who do you want to reach with that message and that thing that you're doing? So figure out who your audience is, so that you can then create content that's going to speak to your audience and speak to them as an individual. So like when you're talking on your podcast or interviewing or whatever the case, you want your listener to feel like you're talking to that individual person, not a whole sea of people, because you want it to be, it's supposed to be an intimate thing. And that's another thing I love about podcasting, is it feels more intimate, it's more personal. So, have your purpose, know who you're speaking to, and then figure out like when you're going to launch your show, because if you don't have a launch date, it's never going to happen. And then hold yourself accountable to it, because, it's so easy to be like, oh, I said psych, oh, I'm going to launch it next year. Oh, psych, I'm going to launch it.
I remember those beginning days. I remember. We took them back so many times.
Yes. So those are the first three things. And then once you know when you want to launch it, there are other technical things like figuring out the format for your podcast. Is it going to be an interview based, or will it be solo episodes, or a hybrid, something where you combine? That's what I do on mine. I've done a lot of interviews. Right now I'm doing a lot of solo episodes, and then I'll be going back to interviews and just interchanging them along the way. So just to create some variety, because I get bored really quickly. So, so that's another thing. Know yourself and know what works for you.
Right.
Bring that into podcasting as well.
Yeah, and I think it works both ways for you, because I love your individual, where you're just talking to us directly. It feels like we're in a conversation. Like me and Erica are on the phone, and I'm listening to her telling me how to do something. So I love that you do it both ways, so you can hear both sides. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Honestly, I felt like I was hiding behind my guests, so I felt like it was time for me to speak up more and share more of Erica on the podcast. So that's kind of why I decided to do it that way.
Okay, awesome. Now LaShonda says she's going to go solo next year. LaShonda, I think you've been doing interviews. Cool.
Nice. Try it. I like it.
Erica, so tell us about the techie part. A lot of people don't want to do it because they don't understand the techie part of it, the editing, and they're scared to just dive in. Give us a few tips about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, Knifey, I'll tell you that when I first started my podcast, I totally, completely, seriously underestimated how much time it was going to take me to produce a show every week. And I was so overwhelmed because I had so many people like, oh, I want to be on your show, I had all these episodes that I had interviewed people, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't plan for this. So you don't have to be a tech person to be successful, but you do need to learn a few things. If you know how to upload a blog post to your website, then you more than likely can upload a podcast episode to your website. I hired a web designer to integrate my podcast into my website because I'm not a tech person. So if you're not a tech person, I highly suggest that you have someone set up your website and make it easy for you to upload your episodes every week. And as far as the recording software, I use Audacity, which is free, and that's for PC. I don't know if they might have a Mac version, but I use Audacity. It's a free software program you can use to record your solo episodes. And when I'm interviewing a guest, I use Skype and Amolto. It's spelled A-M like Mary, O-L-T as in Tom, O, recorder.
Okay.
That's another free platform, and I like it because the quality is really good, the sound is good, and all that stuff. So for the first year, I was editing my own podcast, and it's very time consuming. I was stressing out sometimes because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, I'm scared of tech, if I can do it, you absolutely can do it. Now, you might want to set aside a couple hours, but you can definitely do it. And YouTube became my friend. I also joined some podcasting groups where I had a podcast coach too also. I didn't go with it on my own. I didn't even attempt to try to do it by myself. So I hired a podcast coach who helped me launch my show, taught me some strategies for editing and basic things like that. And then I joined other podcasting groups where I could ask questions and kind of had that community around me.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely would encourage you to, not try to do it by yourself. And then later on, you can outsource the editing like I did. I edited my show for 1 year, and then I was like, I'm done with this. And I found an editor, and now I record and send it off to him, and he sends it back to me, and it's so much easier. Thanks.
Oh, wow. Now, is that pretty cool? Does it come back to you pretty quickly? That's cool.
Yeah, it does. I send them out to him by Sunday evening, and he gets it back to me by Tuesday, which is the night I set it up to go out on Wednesday morning.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people are probably wondering about the expense of this. How expensive is it to get started with podcasting?
Well, that's another great question. If you decide to hire a coach, you're going to pay for that, right? So I hired a podcasting coach because I needed someone to hold me accountable. Plus, I didn't want to try to figure all that stuff out, like how to upload to iTunes and how to whatever else to Stitcher and all that stuff that just stresses me out.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the podcasting coach. That's optional. You could do it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as like the basic necessities, you're going to need a microphone. And of course, you probably already have a laptop. Some people use their phone. I've never ventured that way because I like to have my computer and more control over that. So your microphone, you can get a good one from Amazon for like $65, $70. I have the ATR 2100, which is a really good one. I started off with the Blue Yeti, which was like $130, and I didn't like it. It's a condenser microphone, so it picks up every sound everywhere, and it wasn't good for me because I have kids and stuff going on in other rooms, and I was just like, no. So the ATR 2100 is about, I think, $60 on Amazon.
Okay.
And it doesn't cost a lot. So your basic necessities are a microphone, a computer, recording software, and you can really get started for under $100 if you don't, desire to hire a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as your monthly cost, you're going to need a platform to host your podcasts, to upload them. So just like you would host your blogs on your website, you want to be able to upload your audios, your MP3s onto a platform that's going to host them for you so that people can listen. So I use Libsyn. It's Libsyn.
Mm-hmm.
It's short for Liberated Syndication, and you can get that. The base pricing I think is $5 a month, and that might be enough to do like 4 shows a month. I'm not sure, but I don't know the storage levels in my head. But I pay $20 a month because I like to have the higher stats and all this other,
Okay.
stuff that I can do. But it's really not that expensive. It's just a lot of time. You will pay more in your time. So if you value your time, you can put some dollars on that because you're going to spend some time in the beginning. There is a learning curve, and it definitely does take time to get a rhythm and a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And also you might want to invest. Well, you can do a free online scheduler. You don't have to pay for those like Calendly or Acuity or something like that. But you do want to have something to schedule your guests. You don't want to be like going back and forth like, are you good on Wednesday at 7? Like, yeah, right?
We don't have time for that.
Nope.
All right. So do you think every business owner should have a podcast? How helpful would that be to a business owner to have a podcast?
I think it's super helpful to have a podcast, but again, it depends on your business, your industry, what your goals are for your business. Maybe for you, podcasting isn't the way. Maybe you have a blog, or maybe you do blogging, or maybe you do guest blogging. But I feel like you have to decide if it's best for you. For me, podcasting works because it just does. I think that it's a great way to spread your message and for people to really get to hear your voice. And because iTunes, there's so many people on iTunes, you have a greater chance of reaching more people than you would just by posting blogs on your website and hoping for the best. I mean, so it really depends. I think that it's a great addition to your business because, again, it creates a platform for free content, for people to get to know you, to increase your brand awareness and your brand visibility. So it definitely does, it does benefit your business, but it's not a requirement.
Right. Now, I know with me, podcasting was super helpful because I met so many of my online biz buddies like you, the other Erica, Wendy Nicole, so many people I met through podcasting. So I love the fact that we can reach each other and well, I'm not going to say that we've never met because we need to meet, but
Yeah.
the fact that we can reach the ladies all across the world and get to know each other and become friends even before we meet. So
Absolutely. And I think that that's a great point. And just to add to that, Nighthy, is that I think I've grown tremendously because I've been a podcaster, because it's made me, like I said earlier, step up and speak up. And then it's put me in different circles. And that's how I met Amy Porterfield. So.
Right. Yeah, which we'll talk about soon. I know that you've been speaking a lot more. So I love that is opening doors for you from your platform. But tell us first. So you always put a lot of emphasis on podcasting with a purpose. Tell us, like, what does that mean to you? How important is that to you?
That's a great question too. I feel like because there are so many podcasts out there, that the way you'll stand out is if you have a purpose behind what you're doing, and that people can connect with that. So like it's cool. I mean, if your podcast the purpose is to entertain, then make sure you're funny. If you want to inspire people, then you want to create content that inspires. And you want to be true to yourself too. So I feel like my podcast is an extension of who I am and what I represent. So again, I believe in us operating in our purpose, living in our purpose, doing what we were born to do. And I feel like the podcast should also be an extension of that. Don't, all of a sudden, if you're all about empowerment, don't come out with a podcast about, I don't know, cooking or something, totally different from who you are. It should be purposeful. It should be meaningful, and it should be something that people can actually benefit from. There should be a purpose behind it.
Right. Definitely. Do you think, now a lot of people start podcasts, but they don't have a purpose behind it. It's more, I would say, well, it might be a purpose. It's a hobby. What do you think about people starting podcasts as a hobby?
I think that's great. I think that if you don't have to have a podcast for your business. Again, it's just your way of either sharing what you know, helping others in some way, expressing your passion, like whatever it is. Again, that is purposeful, because every podcast doesn't need to be business oriented or, be a way to bring in clients. It could just be something you love to do, and you're still making the world a better place by sharing what you know and encouraging other people through your hobby. So I think it's great. I think it's awesome to have a podcast as a hobby.
Cool. Now, you have to share with us how podcasting has changed your life. And one thing recently was your interview with Amy Porterfield. Let us know a little bit about that.
Oh man, that was so freaking awesome. So I ended up at Podcast Movement. I actually spoke. That was my first speaking gig or speaking presentation on the West Coast ever. So that was like monumental for me. I was super excited. I love California, and I was just so happy to be back out there and speaking. And I knew that there were going to be some big, heavy players in the industry there. And I was already committed to meeting Amy and asking her to be a guest on my show. So, but somehow I lost track of the schedule because there were so many different workshops and things going on. And I ended up just happening to see her, like, oh my God, this is Amy's thing. So I went into the room and I listened to her interview, and she was great. And I was just like, oh my God, she sounds just like she does on the podcast. And at the end, people go and they stand in line to speak to the people. And I was just like, Amy, I just absolutely love your podcast. I've been listening for a long time. I'm such a fan, and I've always dreamed of having you on the show. I don't know if this is verbatim, but basically what I was thinking, like, this is my chance, don't blow it. And I was like, you're a mom, you talk about Toby a lot on the podcast, and I would love for you to be a guest on my show. And she was like, sure. She's like, I'd love to. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I'm like,
oh my God. Did you
awesome.
faint?
No, I didn't. But I was just like, oh my God, Amy Porterfield just said yes. I couldn't believe it. She was like, just tell my assistant such and such, whatever. And I was like, okay. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Amy just said yes. And, and it kind of went.
Gosh. I would have been so excited.
Yeah, that was in August. She told me she was like booked for a while, so it would take time to get to her, to her interview with me. But I was like, I don't care if it's next year.
Right, I'm waiting.
We're doing this. It's going down.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So I know it's opened up so many other doors for you. I've seen you speaking a lot and doing a lot more. What else has it done for you, podcasting?
Again, just put me in different places. Like I've gotten speaking engagements just because of my podcast, just because of the Moms of Dreams thing. I've spoken in Florida last year. I don't even remember. I can't even think of I spoke a lot this year, maybe like 8 or 10 different places, which was way more than I've ever done. And it's really it's helped me gain clients, because people have found me through my podcast, and then they want me to coach them. And I'm just like always amazed by that. I'm like, how did you find my podcast? And how did you, so I've had clients who've come to me through the podcast, and not because I'm actually saying I can coach. I never do that. Like, I'm never like, oh, hire me to be your coach. It's always very subtle. They hear something that I say, or they like something that was discussed in the podcast, and they want to talk to me. And so we end up working together. And I take a very soft approach to sales. I'm not like, buy this, buy that,
Right. Yeah, and that was Tanya's question. How are you monetizing through podcasts? So you're basically not even doing a sale, like a sort of like a soft sale. You're just being there and being available to the people when they come to you.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And Tanya, to another thing that I'm working on now are some products that I'll be mentioning through the podcast. So that'll just be another way for me to promote them, will be the products that I sell. So basically, I decided that I didn't want to do sponsorships because I get annoyed when I hear a whole bunch of commercials on podcasts. So I didn't really want that to be on my show.
Right.
And I felt like it was such a hassle. Like, oh, I just didn't want all the hassle. I have too much going on already. And I was like, you know what? I want to make this as simple as possible. So some people use sponsorships. I choose to use the approach of selling my services and products through the podcast, but again, very indirectly, very subtle, very just like natural and not pushy.
Cool. So hopefully that answers your question, Tanya. What's the one thing that you want to say sounds great. What's the one thing that you want to say to everyone to encourage them that's thinking about starting a podcast in 2018?
I would say do it. If you have a message and something in your heart to share, then it needs to get out there. There are people waiting for you, people who need to hear what you have to say. And I used to be like, whatever, when people would say that to me, like, how are people waiting for me? They don't even know who I am. But I promise you that once you show up, your listeners and your audience and the people you're trying to reach are going to show up. And they're going to be so grateful that they found you, because you are literally speaking the language that they've been looking for, that remedy, that solution, whatever it is that you have, it's needed. So I would encourage you to like I said, know your purpose, why you want to do it in the first place, so that you can stay committed to it and not give up when it gets rough, because it is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And there are moments when you're going to feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. So, stay committed to your why. And again, I would encourage you to have someone to help you through the process, unless you're really good at tech stuff. And then, set your launch date and work backwards to whatever you have to do, getting your show uploaded to iTunes, getting your podcast cover art, all those little small steps, getting your equipment, getting your guests lined up, figuring out your format, all the little things in between, make that happen so you can reach your launch date and just do it. 2018 is your year to get out there and speak and share and help more people.
Yeah, eight, the year of new beginnings. So we're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Yeah.
Yes.
Woo, woo,
Yes.
woo.
Thank you, Erica. So who has questions for Erica? Drop your questions in the comments and let's pick her brain for a few more minutes. Get some of these little nuggets out of it.
Yay, ask questions, guys.
Erica, what's your website is momswithdreams.com. Is that still?
Yep. Momswithdreams.com, ericablocker.com. Either one, you'll find the podcast there.
So Tanya says, can we go over the tools again that you'll need to start your podcast?
Sure. The basic starting tools are a computer or your phone. I've never done it on my phone, so I don't know how that works, but I know podcasters who do use their phone. But I use my laptop, and you're going to need recording software, depending on if you have a Mac or a PC. You can get either Audacity. I'm pretty sure they have a Mac version. It's free. It's really simple. There are lots of YouTube videos for, editing and different tricks and tips and things like that to help you. I would encourage you to join some podcasting communities so that you can have support around you. And then the microphone that I recommend is the ATR, like Apple Tom Robert 2100. You can get it. Oh, okay, Retha, you used your iPhone. Great. You can get the ATR 2100 from Amazon. I think it's around $60-something. It's not expensive. And then I also have a windscreen over my microphone. So like when you hit the P's and B's, it's not a boom sound like on the microphone. Yes. And that's the basic stuff. Basically, to get started, that's the basic tools.
And you said you use Skype with?
Oh yes, to interview guests, I use Skype. There are other platforms out there. I'm looking at Zencastr is one. Mm-hmm. There's Cast. There are lots of programs you can use to interview guests, but I use Skype with a Amolto recorder, and that's spelled AMOLTO recorder.
AMOLTO. Now I use Uber Conference for recording.
Okay, there you go.
Free. That's totally free too. So LaShonda wants to know, how do you promote your podcast?
Oh, okay. I promote when I have a guest, I always ask them to share, first of all. And then I have I have a little system that I created. So my podcast goes out to my list the morning of, and then I also share it on Facebook, on my business pages, and on my personal page, and on Twitter. And then I also have it repeating. So I use Post Planner, and that allows me to recycle. So I schedule my posts to continue to recycle for a short period of time to keep promoting the podcast even when I'm not around. And then I also promote my podcast in person too. When I'm out and I meet women, I give my business cards and I ask them if they listen to podcasts and, invite them to listen. So I do a lot of talking about it in person as well. But as far as social media, I use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram also, and some LinkedIn. I have a Pinterest page. I need to become more active on Pinterest because that's another great platform. I started putting my podcast on there, but I haven't been consistent with it. So that's kind of what I do. And again, if you have guests, you want to encourage your guests to share, because the more they share, the more visibility they're going to gain from that as well.
Right. That's awesome. I love Post Planner. Erica is the one that actually got me started with Post Planner time. So it's Erica's fault that I put on everybody all the time. I love it. I love Post Planner.
Isn't it great? It's so great.
Yeah.
It does the same thing that Meet Edgar does. It's just not as expensive.
Yeah, Meet Edgar is a little bit expensive, especially if you're just getting started. Yeah, definitely. Now, LaShonda says, do you think the podcast needs to be edited? I don't edit. Oh, she does it like a conversation. Okay.
Oh, mine needs to be edited because especially the Amy Porterfield, you guys would not believe how many times we had to start over. She was hilarious. She kept messing up. But
Amy?
Yes. Amy was messing up. We had to take it over like probably 5 times in the beginning. It was hilarious. So she was like, "Oh my God, I've never messed up this much. I don't know what's going on." So whatever. But to answer your question, it's a personal choice. I like to have mine edited, not to where it doesn't sound like, we still have some like hiccups in there. It's still like a natural conversation. But if my guest stumbles and they're like, "Can we start over?" Yeah, go ahead, sure, whatever. It's gonna be edited. So I do like the fact that I can fix mistakes and kind of clean stuff up. But you don't have to. It's your choice. It's your show. Do it how you want. And that's another thing I love about podcasting. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. It's your show.
Yeah. I remember in the beginning, we would edit a lot because a lot of people would say and like every other sentence. So it became a bit much. So we would try to edit some of those out.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Aretha says, I truly believe that that people are waiting to hear from us. She started launching her podcast on the week of Kwanzaa, and she used her iPhone. Congratulations.
Woo, that's awesome, Rita. Congratulations. I'm excited for you.
Yes, her podcast is on her website, momswithdreams.com.
It's also on iTunes. I think she asked me, is it only on my website?
Oh, okay.
It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and soon to be on iHeartRadio, but it's not there yet. So
okay.
And it's also on my website as well.
All righty. Awesome. This was fun, Erica.
Yes, it was. I had a great time.
You have encouraged me. I think when you did episode 100, you encouraged me to start my podcast again. So I want to thank you, Erica. All right. I don't think Erica's on Periscope.
I don't do Periscope. I'm on there, but I'm never on there.
Yeah. Yeah. She has a Periscope handle, but she's not.
Right. No, I don't like It's not my favorite because I feel like there's a lot of mean people on there.
Oh yeah. Those trolls are kind of slowing down now. We've blocked so many of them, I think.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Did I have a launch party? Did I have a launch party for my first? I can't remember. Well, I did like a big.
Long ago.
Yeah, it was like a big deal. I did like have people help me launch it, but it wasn't really a launch party. But I did have a big launch, and I did like send people, and I actually hit new and noteworthy. I was number 2 in my category, I hit number 1. I think I hit number 1 at one point. Yeah, so I did have a big launch. It was scheduled. When is a great time to do a launch? Well, there is no great time. You make it the great time. So basically it's about setting it up, scheduling it, and getting a launch team. That was really important because I had people who were also sharing it too and promoting it for me. So having a launch team in place will help your podcast boost it up to the higher ratings and get into new and noteworthy on iTunes, which is kind of like Amazon's bestseller list. Once you get a new and noteworthy, you have bragging rights like, yes, my podcast was a new. Thank you very much.
I'm here.
Yes.
So LaShonda wants to know, how do you become a guest on your podcast?
Just ask. No, just kidding.
Just ask.
No.
Erica.
Yeah, pretty much. I really like to interview women of all walks of life. So yeah, if you have a story that you want to share, LaShonda, definitely email me. You can email me at erica@momswithdreams.com, and we can set up a time to chat, or I can learn more about you and we can make that happen.
And warning, Erica's always booked. No. She's booked for like 3 months at a time. So I'm like, Erica.
Well, not right now, though, Knifey. Now is the time. If you want to be on my show and you have something you want to share, now's a good time because I'm just getting started with scheduling guests again. So I have a clean slate, and I'm excited about that.
Cool. Well, I'm in.
All right.
In.
Yes. So Knifey's going to be on the show, y'all.
Yes. I think I was in like one of your first episodes.
Yes, you were in the early show. Like, we're going to do it all over again.
I was in the ancient shows.
You're in the first, like, theme music show, the original theme music. Oh, shoot, that's funny. That's another thing you guys can add to your podcast to make it fun is a theme music and an intro and outro. I didn't really talk about all the logistics of a podcast tonight, but that's something else that makes it more professional sounding and, more in the ranks of those upper echelon, or not upper echelon, but, the established podcasts.
Uh-huh.
So to have an intro, an outro, It sounds more professional.
Yeah.
And I think someone asked me about the groups that I'm in.
Yeah, podcast groups that you use for support. Do you mind sharing some of those?
No, I don't mind sharing. I would love to share. So the first one, yay, got your music from SoundCloud. Hey, ladies. Hi, Makita. Thanks. I'm all like taking over nicely. Thanks for joining.
Oh, no, good, Erica. Thank you.
Okay, one of my favorite podcast groups is She Podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh man, there's another one, Mid-Atlantic Podcast. MapCon, I think it is. That was a conference I spoke at, and they also have a podcasting group. And I think there's a Podcasters Hangout that I'm in, and I can't think of anything else right now. But She Podcasts is like my favorite because it's all women. Jessica Kupferman and Elsie, forgot Elsie's last name, but Elsie Escobar. They're so cool. Like, they know a lot about podcasting, and it's all about sharing and supporting everyone. So definitely encourage you to join She Podcasts.
Yeah, I was a member of that group and I loved it. I'm going to go back, especially since I'm getting started with podcasting again. Yeah.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Erica, for sharing all those golden nuggets with us.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. I love doing these kinds of things where we just talk and share and help each other out.
I know. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for coming on in. And thanks to everyone that's watching the replay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Good night, everyone.
Yeah.